joining us this morning. We have our friends from Titusville City Hall joining us. We have the city manager, Mr. Neil Fratus. We have the mayor of Titusville, John Crouch, joining us. Gentlemen, good to see you this morning.
Good to see you, Luke. Morning.
Another exciting week ahead.
Yeah,
looking forward to it. A lot going on. Let's kind of backtrack. Last week, you guys had a meeting, and a lot of topics came up. Obviously, budget and committees and all sorts of things. Neil, you have your manager's report, which kind of gets everybody caught up with everything going on. So let's kind of start with last week's meeting, and where do you want to start there?
Yeah, we can talk about Hudson companies.
Okay.
That was a big topic. It's something we've been talking about for most of the year,
Yeah.
actually. And so it came to light. Hudson companies, obviously, I guess I can rewind here a little bit. Hudson companies was interested in building a senior living building here in the city of Titusville, 40-plus units. We had met with them back in February of this year and had worked through looking at different locations in the city. What we were looking for was about 2 acres, obviously a large piece of property that was needed. Downtown would obviously be ideal. Unfortunately, it's just limited on locations in the downtown area. One of the areas that they were really impressed with were to the east of Burgess Park. Folks know it as the flag football field, excuse me, and the pavilion that's up on the hill there that the city rents out occasionally as well. So we did a lot of different things with that property, surveying, checking to see where water sewer lines are. Obviously, we looked at the deed that the city had at City Hall when it was purchased back in the late 60s. And then obviously going through all the motions with that, title search is done. So the title search was done about 2 weeks ago. Obviously, as we were getting down to the, I wouldn't say to the end, but getting to the point where we were going to have a public meeting to get some public input as well as that being a potential location. And upon receiving the title documents and looking through it with our solicitor, we realized that that property was actually acquired back in the late 60s with Project 70 land acquisition money. It was purchased for a rate a little over $3,000. That being said, in researching, it was found that if the city was interested in selling property they used Project 70 money for, they would have to pay it back and also, I would say pardoned, but get permission by the General Assembly. Obviously, that's a process that can't be done in a day or two. And with the application for the potential senior living due in the middle of December, it just wasn't enough time to get things going. But, it took that long until title documents were pulled from the courthouse and to be able to go through those things. Obviously, it shed some light on different things that weren't necessarily in the deed. The issue with the deed was back when City Council administration had done a resolution, they hadn't put in that resolution that the land was acquired by Project 70 money. So it looked like it was
They never changed the deed at the courthouse.
Wow.
So we had the original deed, obviously, at City Hall, and it just didn't tell us that. So unfortunately, it took that long to go through all the different motions. Otherwise, we would have been looking at potential sites, of course. And then with the time crunch, it just made sense to kind of put a halt to it. One of the good things with Hudson Companies is they want to come back in the beginning of the year, look at different locations throughout the city. I'm sure maybe there's some other opportunities out there here that, we're excited for them. We're excited that they want to, obviously, development in the city. It's something that's well needed. It's just put a little snag in the, the potential construction of it. But again, we'll revisit it.
And that's a multi-million-dollar project, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're
14,
talking
15 million?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Definitely.
So, John, I think you had a chance to visit. You guys
Yes.
had a chance to go around and visit the other
Yes.
location. So when they say like a 40-unit facility, their research is indicating then they do that side of it?
Yes.
Okay, so
They
they're
s-
looking at it coming to you saying, we think we can fill 40 units.
I think in a 15-mile radius, their research showed that there's 2,800 to 3,000 potential people that could be move into a place like that.
Wow.
And they build them first class. They have pet stations, and people can have pets in there so they can wash their pets, and they have beautiful kitchens for the residents, and it's like a place where people can age in place, they call it. They do classes. They were all coordinating with the University of Pittsburgh to do classes there, coordinating with our senior center to do things with them. So it'll be a neat thing when it gets here. It'll come. We just have to keep going to research, and we'll find it. We'll find the right place for it.
Neil, when you guys were going around trying to find locations, did you kind of have you said it was tough, but did you have a couple locations on the list that you could say, okay, well, if this doesn't work, we can retreat to this, or is this the period now where you kind of go, okay, let's start keeping an eye out and see maybe an area we could potentially look at?
Yeah, we had other folks involved. Obviously, the Redevelopment Authority was involved in discussion as well. Some other business owners as well, just looking at different ideas. And again, it was challenging because we needed close to 2 acres. It's hard to find something downtown. Obviously, with the
Yeah.
senior living, you want something that folks can walk to a grocery store, what have you. And again, we just have to put our thinking caps on. We look at areas, Parker Furniture, it's out of business. Maybe reaching out to them and saying, hey, is that a potential? It's kind of tight in that area down there, but if the building wasn't there, would there be enough room? And
Right.
there's just a lot of different things you have to factor in. The redevelopment authority as well has some property. It's working with them. It's obviously getting other folks involved. And, Rite Aid just went out, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So what about that location? There's already a parking lot there. You never know. So again, we're just going to have to revisit these different areas that we looked at.
So there could be
and-
some opportunities.
Yes,
yeah, I think there
absolutely.
is. So we'll have to revisit it, and we're hopeful that they want to definitely develop here, and we'll deal with it when.
So
We have to.
now, when they say they're going to reach out to you first of the year, is that communication going on even now? So you could say, "Hey, here's a thought." Rite Aid, for example, that
Yeah.
location, or do you kind of just wait and see what happens first of the year?
No, it's constant communication. Obviously,
Yes.
we're still communicating with those folks. They did a lot of research, a lot of record pulling, a lot of different things, site surveying. Of course, and the city did as well. So no, it's going to be constant communication with them. And again, when I got the news about Rite Aid, I reached out to them and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
potential empty building. Obviously, is this something that could work?" And we'll get through it and make a plan for next year.
All right. The other thing about last week, chance to kind of go through monthly reports and
Yep.
just kind of update everybody on what's going on. Any big surprises there?
No, just a lot of work being done, obviously, by Public Works, a lot of late fall projects getting done, cleaning up some of our parks,
Late
making some
fall.
plans. Yeah.
I know.
Obviously, leaf pickup will be starting soon. Our back truck has been out, or not the back truck, but our leaf pickup truck's been out anyhow already. Obviously, the scheduled pickup that everyone would have received when they'll be getting picked up on the scheduled route is coming. And
I saw a hospital truck over the weekend with a plow on it. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah. Getting prepared. It was a little chilly this morning, too.
Yeah,
But,
that's
thankfully, no snow. Had to let the car run for a little bit.
Yeah.
But, we're just finishing up on a lot of projects. Our police and fire, obviously, are doing their thing. We're still working on an ambulance agreement with Emergent Care. It's been, once documents get to lawyers and insurance companies, it takes a little bit extra time. So
Sure.
we're waiting patiently for that. We're very excited to get that up and going
Yeah.
before the end of the year. And so, no, just, all in all, finishing up some things before it gets colder.
John, when it comes to budget talks and just kind of getting everybody up to date, obviously you're looking to Neil and the department heads to get things finalized and pull out any concerns that they may have. Anything jump out to you, or at this point is it looking pretty good?
I think it's looking good. I really like the fact that we have been really the last 4 years looking down the road a little more for capital projects and having money set aside in the budget, et cetera, to cover those type things. And it's nice to have them all involved. Even our newest Public Works with Scott Brown down there, he's really been involved with Lisa in making sure that they have their needs and their wants, brought to the table, and then we'll have to trim what we need to, but it looks pretty good, really good at this point. So
It seems like, and obviously behind the scenes may be different, but it seems like everybody kind of knows things are tight. Things are tough for everybody, right?
Yes.
So yeah, hey, these are things we need, but if we can start budgeting and get them down the road, that'd be great. We don't need it right now. It'd be nice, but we're okay if we don't have it.
yes, I think having them on the forefront, right out there on the page in front of us, like our 12-year plan out at the airport, makes you more aware when grants become available and stuff. Hey, maybe we can use that for this. Maybe we can use this for that. So
Neil, I don't know if you noticed, but when we were at Franklin playing soccer a couple weeks, 2 weeks ago or a week ago, whenever, the number of airplanes that were just flying overhead, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was amazing. Of course, the weather was nice too as
Yeah.
well. But yeah, it was constant over the field, as you said, Luke. And it's one of the things. Getting back on the budget was having our department heads. They're involved obviously all year round, looking at their budget, looking at different line items. Obviously, having a capital plan is great because then obviously we're planning for the future, long term wise, and being able to look at putting some money away for whether it's a dump truck or some equipment for the police department. And again, the department heads do a fantastic job throughout the year. They know what they have. They know they're not going to overspend. Obviously, you have during the year emergencies come up. A water line needs put in somewhere, something to that nature, and we deal with that. And again, it's so important having them in part of the conversation with the budget, as you know, they're the ones that, as I said before, run their department. They know what equipment they need to do the job, and they do a fantastic job staying within their means, no question.
You're watching the Morning Drill on Stream Television and on Armstrong's Neighborhood Channel. We're here with Titusville City Manager Neil Fratus, the Mayor of Titusville, Mr. John Crouch. Raccoon Refuse Performance Bond. This is kind of a unique situation. You can kind of set this up, but what do you do with money that the city's receiving from this? That became a conversation because there's a lot of options now with this.
There's a lot of options, and we want to try to reduce confusion and a lot of logistics.
Break down what this is first.
So whenever somebody comes to do a big job for the city, or somebody comes to perform a contract with the city, they have to get a performance bond from an insurance company that's equal to their contract, so that the duration of their contract, so that if something happens and the city has to take on additional expenses, then that money comes back for that. Well, but what did happen is we didn't know if we were going to get the performance bond at first. We as people know, people were only without garbage pickup one day, and then the following week we picked it up as a city, and then by the weekend we had Tri-County in here. So it took us a long time to figure out the performance bond, and we finally got the performance bond. The city had incurred quite a few expenses at the beginning, and then we were trying to kick around ideas what we should do with that money, because herein lies the issues. There's some people that are here in the city now that weren't here when we switched companies. There's some people that moved that were here when that happened. We had up people's garbage bill a little bit to cover the new contract that we got very quickly, and we're kicking around some ideas that we thought there might be a couple projects in town that would benefit everyone. That this would be a very short-lived thing, because potentially it'd be about $10, per customer per month, and it might for a few months, and it might be better utilized to use that. For example, one of the things is we've been looking at down where the sand volleyball courts are down at Meyer Complex, a nice playground equipment, so when people come there with their families, they can, whether they're there for a game or not, there's something for the kids to do. So stuff like that. And Neil will touch on other stuff.
Yeah. So again, we weren't sure if we were going to get that money back on the performance bond. Obviously, it's been just about 2 years, and we finally just got it. Something that took a long time. And with that large amount of money, now we've got to look at, as the mayor said, we have a lot of customers that aren't here anymore. Some move, some that have not, and so we're looking at two options: whether it goes back to the customers for just a few short period months where they get a little discount, not on their water and sewer, but on their garbage.
And that can backfire too, because after that runs out,
after 4 months, you're going to go back to whatever the rate was.
Right,
was at.
and if you're not really paying attention, you're like, "Oh, my bill just went up."
Yeah, it's about $120 some over 4 months, so it's not a lot of money. Again, and it's tough to be able to. We have customers, as I said, that aren't here, so it's how are we going to do that? And that's something we have to look at. And so, as the mayor said, we have talked about projects that'll benefit the city in a longer term, more than just 4 months. Whether it's we talked about a playground site at Meyer, we talked about another e-waste event, a recycling event for folks over at Burgess Park, which we have one a year. That always fills up very quickly. You have to do it by appointment only. We talked about a shredding event for the public that would be open to the public as well. We're talking about a project maybe for the senior center that'll benefit the older folks over there, and then obviously the younger folks with the playground set potentially. So those are things we're looking at, and again, we discussed it at our last council meeting, tabled it. We're going to have it on our agenda for the first week in November for folks to come out and provide input, and obviously for council and myself to discuss. And again, it's a lot of things to look at, but again, we want to hear from the public as well. It's important,
And one other thing to think about that, if any of us here were sitting with some people, have 20, 30 apartments in town, or you had an apartment building, so now that all that money may go back to not the renters or not the people that are out there. So this way, if we do a worthwhile project, that it will benefit everybody for many years to come.
Yeah, I thought it was brought up last week at the meeting. I thought it was kind of just a well thought out statement, but you could do something that's going to just be a quick little hit, or something that's going to be more meaningful and long lasting.
Yes.
Yeah.
In terms of a project that could be invested in or something like that. So. It sounds like there's a lot of options. It's just, Neil, what's next? Just kind of getting people's thoughts, or getting council's thoughts, and
everyone's, not just council, but the public as well. Again, we're going to have it on our agenda again. We encourage people to come out, share their opinion. If they want to call City Hall and talk to me and say, hey, I think it's a terrible idea to do a project, or hey, I think it's a wonderful idea to do something that's longer lasting in the city. I mean, that's what we want to hear. And again, we have a couple of different options here. So.
Now, with the budget, is there still some opportunity to come and listen to some of that discussion, or what's kind of next in terms of that process?
Go ahead.
So tonight, 5 o'clock at City Hall, we're going to talk about revenue. Tomorrow as well. Tomorrow is actually scheduled as the last public budget meeting. Obviously, I'll be having probably several meetings with council up until November 20th is when the first reading is to be. We encourage folks to come out. We're going to talk about revenue. We can talk about things that we've discussed already as well. We're going to finish up on that tomorrow, and then go back to the table with council and figuring out what needs trimmed, if things need trimmed, and where we go from here. Always encouraging the public to come out to listen.
John, as Neil says, trimming anything, is it just to do it to have some extra funds, in case something pops up during the year? Or, I mean, do you have something in your mind of, if we could have X amount put aside, or, I mean, what's sort of that process for you?
Well, that's a good point. That's kind of between our financial supervisor, which is now Heather Stewart, and Neil. They kind of looked out for, some rainy day funds. And hopefully we don't have too much rain, but it's partly that, but partly just so we can meet budgets, because sometimes all of our needs, and naturally people put all their wants out there, and there are things that could really make their department the best, and then we may be $75,000 over budget, so we have to figure out where to trim, and without the possibility, we're doing everything we can to not raise taxes next year. So, and also to have a budget that the new incoming council would be happy to live with. So we're looking at all those aspects.
Neil, I'm sure there's kind of a threshold, right? If it's a certain amount, then you're probably looking at larger projects to cut away, because it's probably tough to cut a little bit here to make a big impact, unless it's a lot of little cuts. But
looking at capital as well. A lot of times if we're looking at a vehicle here in the next 2 years, it's putting half that away. It's can we extend it another year? Again, we don't want to kick the can down the road, but this is part of the challenge with the budget, and it's great having all of council and myself, and if we have to bring the department heads back in to discuss their, line item by line item, then that's what we'll do. And it's about priority, and it's about things that it's not about what we want, it's about what we need and to be able to do the job. So those are things that we'll sit down and discuss and, come up with a balanced budget.
Yeah, and that's got to be, well, I'm sure you really get a lot of detailed information when it comes to this part of it, right? Because you're probably challenging those department heads. It's like, listen, we need to trim X amount, here. So go find it and come back and let me know.
Yeah, and that's what these discussions, after tomorrow, sitting with council, they're going to have questions and say, hey, do we really need this? And then, I'll go back to the department head and say, is this something that really makes sense, or is this something that can wait? And again, it's we're getting down towards the end.
Yeah. Real quick, city's taking on the Christmas parade, I hear, this year.
Yes, so we'll be doing the Santa's parade. It's the day after Thanksgiving. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but that'll be on a Friday night.
It's coming soon. Yeah,
it'll be here real soon.
It'll be on a Friday.
Yeah.
Yes.
After Thanksgiving.
There we go.
I think it's the 23rd, maybe, something like that.
Wow.
So we're just finishing up applications for those folks that want to be in the parade.
Okay.
So pretty much the same applications we had last year. And again, we're excited to bring it back to the city.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Thanks, Lou.